Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of T.E.A.R.S. Now today your host Pottyboy is going to be playing Pac-Land. Now I was inspired to do this video after my friends did a couple of videos. Mount 1976 did a review of the Commodore 64 version. Mr. Gamer 1 aka Asperger's Gamer 64 did a review of the MS6 version, and ZX Spectre did a review of the ZX Spectrum version. Now after looking at those reviews, looking at their reviews of the games, I thought, you know what, why don't I take a look at the Amiga version and do a T.E.A.R.S. review of it. So I came up with this. Now for those of you who've not played this game before, this is another arcade conversion. The original arcade game was released by Namco back in 1984. This port was released by Grandslam in 1989. Now, basically, the Pac-Land, it was actually a video game adaptation of the Pac-Man cartoon series, which was done by Hanna-Barbera. I've seen quite. I remember watching it in the mid-90s when it was shown on Cartoon Network, and I remember it was quite a good little cartoon. It was certainly the very first cartoon to be based on a video game. Now, of course, unfortunately, they won't show it on the telly these days because, unfortunately, a lot of the characters in the cartoon series refer to Pac-Man as something that's considered quite racist these days. Yeah, like Mount 1976 said in his review of the Commodore 64 one. Yeah, I'm not going to mention it. It's, but I think you can probably have a good guess and find out what they actually call him in the show, but it's considered quite racist nowadays. It wasn't back then, so that's why they got away with it. But yeah, I think in the US you can actually buy it on DVD over there. So, and of course there's the usual torrents and whatnot. But yeah. Overall, Namco. Anyway, so Namco did the arcade version of this game, and it was a very good game. It's one that I quite enjoyed. I've never played the actual arcade machine, but I've played it a couple of times in MAME, and it's a very good game. The ports in a way are, despite the fact it's a simple game, the ports are a bit of a mixed bag. The Commodore 64 one I consider my all-time favourite conversion of the game. I think it's absolutely superb. But the Spectrum port is just absolutely terrible. It didn't even have the scrolling or anything, and it just looked horrid, even for Spectrum. And the M6 port, well, I can say that's even worse because that's just a straight port of the Spectrum one. The Amstrad one looks really colourful, but it was once again, like the Spectrum one, it had no scrolling. It was like a push scroll screen, which was a bit of a disadvantage. But the Commodore 64 one was great. I loved it. Anyway, going a bit off topic there. Back to this version of the game. This one it's all right. It's not a great conversion. It's not a perfect conversion. But it's not. I'm not saying it's terrible, isn't it? It's a very playable conversion, but yeah, it's just that it could have been better. In my port, it's not a bad conversion, but it really could have done with a bit of polish. I think that one of the problems is that once again this is a port of the Atari ST version, like 95% of all the other conversions on the Amiga. Yeah. Overall, I mean, in a way, the graphics look quite colourful. The graphics look fairly colourful, but you could tell in some areas whereby instead of colouring it in, they sort of like divot it a bit, divot the graphics. Like for example, take a look at Pac-Man's gloves. It's red and yellow dots instead of one single colour. I think it's because the T.E.A.R.S didn't have such a high colour palette. It couldn't display as many colours on the screen as the Amiga one. But overall, I really think they could have made this game just it's colourful, but just a little bit more colour and less of the dithering would have helped. But the biggest problem I have with this conversion is, it scrolls, but it's not very smooth. And I think there's one part where you're jumping over the logs and stuff, whereby the game does slow down quite a bit. Now, this is not very good considering the Amiga since I've mentioned this in a couple of reviews in the past, that the Amiga was capable of hardware scrolling. It was able to scroll using hardware. But once again, because this is an T.E.A.R.S port, because the T.E.A.R.S didn't have hardware scrolling, all the scrolling was done on the processor, and supported to a system that held hardware scrolling without actually using the Amiga's hardware scrolling, if you know what I mean. It's just not good enough. And you can see here, it's really slowed down. It's really jerky. It really could have been a lot smoother. And in terms of the how well they're drawn, they're not drawn too bad actually. I think Pac-Man doesn't look like he's enjoying himself though. He doesn't smile like he does in a lot of the other conversions. He only really smiles when he's standing still, but when he's moving, he looks a bit concerned. Music-wise, the music's pretty faithful to the arcade game, but there's one tune missing, and that's the main proper Pac-Man cartoon theme. Because in the arcade version, you had it played when you were doing like your first lot of trips before you return the ferry, and you get the magic boots like what I've got now. It played the actual proper main theme from the cartoon series, but in this version, it's absent. Instead, it just loops the music from. It just pretty much loops the music from the music whereby you're returning home. I say. So I think it's a bit of a disappointment. They could have used the cartoons. They could have used the cartoon's main theme, which I think is a bit. No, I'm not saying that the cartoon theme's bad. It's a really great little cartoon theme, but I'm just a bit disappointed that it's not included in this version. But the rest of the music is pretty faithful. It's done quite well. But yeah, and the loading times and stuff are pretty good. I think they did they're certainly the fastest loading times I've seen on the Amiga, but I don't know why it's to stop and load after every single round, which is a bit of an issue. But it's luckily like I said, the loading times are pretty quick in this one. Overall, this isn't so. But how well does it play? Control-wise, I think Pac-Man's jump is slightly more floaty compared to some of the other versions. But yeah, it plays pretty well. But yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about this conversion. Really, it's nothing special. Could have done just a bit more polish. It's a fun conversion. I'm not saying it's a terrible one. It's not a bad one at all. So it's just I just think for the Amiga, it could have been just a bit better. So yeah, it's not a bad conversion. It's just that there are better conversions. It's not a bad conversion, but there are much better conversions about. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna come to the end of this review. You know what? It's a playable conversion. But yeah, like I said, it could have been a bit better. I'm going to give this one 3 out of 5. Thank you very much for watching.